My parents kept calling my 18-year-old a failure, while they treated her cousin like royalty. At Christmas dinner, they even raised a toast, saying she would inherit the business and the $500,000 family trust fund. I simply replied, "That's fine because my daughter now works in." From what they heard next, my parents choked on champagne. You'd think after everything I've accomplished, my parents would give me, or at least my daughter, a shred of respect. But no, at Christmas dinner this year, they made sure to humiliate us again. Not directly, of course. They've evolved. Now it's all backhanded compliments, smug little nods, loud praise for someone else right in front of you. It's subtle but constant, like standing in a slow drip of cold water, trying to smile through it. This year, it was worse than usual. The house smelled like cinnamon and ham. My mom had the fireplace on way too high, and Bing Crosby was singing something cheerful while we all sat on edge. My sister Rachel had arrived 2 hours early with Courtney, her 20-year-old daughter. Naturally, my parents greeted them like royalty coming back from war. My mom hugged Courtney like she hadn't seen her in a decade, even though they FaceTime every Sunday. My dad immediately started asking about her smoothie bar job like it was NASA. Lexi and I showed up 10 minutes early, just like always. We got a nod. No one asked Lexi how she was. No one asked what she was up to, not even a lazy. "So how's school?" My mom did, however, comment on her outfit, said it was a little plain for the holidays. Lexi just smiled and sat down. They didn't know she wasn't in school anymore. They had no clue she graduated early. They didn't know she worked full-time in cybersecurity. They didn't know she'd been promoted twice, or that she'd paid off her car, or that she just put a down payment on her first condo. They didn't know because they never asked. Instead, my parents kept the spotlight where they always do on Courtney. Someone mentioned travel, and my mom jumped in with Courtney, just got back from a leadership retreat. You know, selected out of hundreds. My dad said she had that executive presence. Courtney smiled and took it all in like she deserved every word. Maybe she thought she did. She was wearing one of those expensive designer bags I knew she didn't buy herself. Lexi sat across from her, quietly sipping water, mostly scrolling on her phone. Mark reached for my hand under the table. He knew I was seething. Then came dinner. Then came the toast. Every year my dad insists on it. It's his moment. He clinks his glass, stands up with that smug smile, and starts listing off family highlights. This time, though, he skipped most of us completely. "Let's raise a glass to someone who's really going places," he said. "To Courtney, for being our family's pride, for being responsible, hardworking, and for truly making something of herself." My sister was glowing. My mom had tears in her eyes like she just watched her daughter win a Nobel Prize. Then my dad dropped the real bomb. "And one more thing, Rachel and I have discussed it. Courtney will be taking over the family business one day, and she'll be the sole beneficiary of the family trust. $500,000. There was a second of silence, just one. Then my mom raised her glass, smiling proudly. Everyone followed except me. I looked at Lexi. She gave me a small shrug like she was used to this, but I wasn't going to let it slide this time. I stood up calm, steady, and said just one thing. "That's fine." The room went quiet again because my daughter, I continued, now works in cybersecurity. She was hired by a Fortune 100 company at 18. She makes over $120,000 a year. And since you didn't ask, she's also the one who bought me my new car in full herself. My mom blinked like she'd been slapped. My dad actually choked on his champagne. Courtney looked at Lexi like she was seeing her for the first time. Rachel turned pale. I pulled out my phone, showed the receipts, offer letter, car payment, past dupes, just enough to make sure no one could say I was exaggerating. Lexi didn't say a word. He didn't need to. For the first time in her life, the entire room was staring at her. Not with pity, not with judgment, not with indifference, but with something that looked an awful lot like shock. And that was just the beginning. After the toast, it was like the whole room froze. Nobody said anything, just the faint clinking of silverware against plates. Some awkward shifting in chairs and the soft crackle of the fire. It wasn't just silence. It was that thick, uncomfortable kind where everyone's waiting for someone else to speak first. Lexi didn't look up. She just took another bite of mashed potatoes like nothing happened. I think she wanted to disappear. I, on the other hand, had never felt more alive. After years of being dismissed, ignored, and quietly pitted, I had finally seen my parents react to my daughter with something close to stunned respect. Or maybe just fear. Either worked. Rachel looked like she was trying to swallow a rock. My dad picked up his glass again, but didn't drink. Courtney's face went stiff, like she was forcing herself to keep smiling. She opened her mouth once, then shut it. Finally, she asked Lexi way too casually where she worked. Lexi didn't even look at her, just said the company name and went back to her food. It landed hard. The name alone carried weight. You could see it hit my parents. My dad gave a little exhale like he just realized something, then tried to act like he hadn't. My mom reached for her wine, then glanced at Rachel, but Rachel was too busy pretending to check something on her phone. Then came the questions, hesitant, awkward ones. My mom asked if Lexi was working part-time or if this was some kind of training program. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I answered for her full-time with benefits and a promotion already under her belt. And while we were at it, yes, she paid for the car in cash, and yes, she'd moved into her own place last month. My dad said something under his breath about tech being lucky these days and tried to steer the conversation toward Courtney's upcoming vacation to Miami. No one cared, not even Courtney. Lexi stayed calm, quiet, but I could tell the weight of it was sinking in. The shift, for the first time in her life, she wasn't being talked over or ignored. For once, she wasn't Emily's quiet daughter who's still figuring things out. He was the most accomplished person in the room, and no one had seen it coming. After dinner, Lexi slipped into the kitchen. I gave it a minute, then followed. She was leaning on the counter, scrolling through her phone, soda can in one hand. She didn't say anything right away. Then she asked me, "Why didn't you tell them before?" I told her the truth. Because it wasn't my story to tell. Because if they didn't care enough to ask, I wasn't going to beg them to notice. Because part of me wanted them to feel this exact thing. Shock. She nodded. It's just weird now. They didn't care until they thought I was worth something. That hit me harder than I expected. We walked back into the living room. My dad was putting on a football game. My mom was doing dishes, but kept glancing at us. She didn't say anything about the car again. Rachel and Courtney were already grabbing their coats, clearly not in the mood to stick around. When we said we were heading out, my mom just said, "Drive safe." That was it. No hug, no Merry Christmas, just that. In the car, Lexi looked out the window most of the way home. About 10 minutes in, she said, "This changes everything, doesn't it?" I asked her what she meant. They're going to act different now. Pretend they always believed in me or something, and I don't know if I want that. I told her it was up to her what she wanted. We didn't owe anyone anything. She didn't answer, just nodded and kept staring out the window, but I knew she was right. It had changed everything. And not just for her, because 3 days later I got a call from my mom. She wanted to check in. At first, I thought she was just trying to smooth things over, but then she asked the question I should have seen coming. "Do you think Lexi would be willing to help your father and I with something? Just a small financial thing. We're a little tight right now." That was the moment I realized this wasn't admiration, it was opportunity. When my mom called and casually asked if Lexi could help with something small, I didn't answer right away. She was trying to make it sound innocent, like it was just a minor favor between family. But I could already tell where this was going. I asked her what kind of help she meant. That's when she started circling around it. "Well, your father and I have run into some unexpected repairs on the rental." She said, "The tenancy's been difficult, just some cash flow issues." Nothing serious, I stayed quiet. Then she added, "Lexi's doing so well. I figured maybe she could just float us a few thousand. She wouldn't even notice it, right?" That's the part that made my blood go cold. They had ignored her for 18 years, insulted her, downplayed everything she did, and now that she had money, she had value. I asked her why she didn't just ask Lexi herself. She said, "Well, I thought it might be easier coming from you. You can frame it the right way." I didn't like what that implied, but I ended the call before I said something I'd regret. That night, I told Lexi everything. She didn't look shocked. She barely reacted at all. She just asked, "How much?" I told her. Then I asked, "Do you actually want to help them?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said something that stayed with me ever since. "They never cared about what I did. They don't know who I am, but I don't want to become the kind of person who holds that over them." I reminded her she didn't owe them anything, not $1. Not one explanation. But the next morning, she sent the money, no dramatic announcement, no lecture, no conditions. She texted me afterward, "It's done. Please don't talk about it again." I wish I had pushed harder. For about 2 weeks, things went suspiciously quiet. My mom suddenly started texting Lexi things she never had before. Random photos from Lexi's childhood, old recipes, links to articles about women in tech, like she was trying to build a relationship from scratch using Google search results. My dad sent Lexi a link to a retirement account comparison site, followed by a thumbs-up emoji. Nothing else. Lexi didn't engage much, just short replies, polite, distant. Then came the second ask. Another unexpected issue. This time it was something about a delayed insurance payout. Only temporary, they said. My parents called Lexi directly. I didn't even know until she mentioned it casually the next day. She helped again. Quietly. Another few thousand. By the end of January, she'd given them close to $10,000. She told me not to worry about it. She said she could afford it, and I believed her. But I also knew it wasn't about the money. It was about being seen, and that's what scared me. I assumed she was handling it, brushing it off the way she always did with their nonsense. But late one night, I went into the laundry room to grab a clean blanket and found her sitting on the floor in the dark. Knees pulled to her chest, face buried in her arms. I asked what was wrong. She didn't move at first, then she looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen, her voice barely a whisper. "I feel so dumb." That broke me. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about being used, about realizing that the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally had just been waiting for a reason to start pretending. She kept saying, "I thought maybe if I helped they'd see me." I sat down next to her. I didn't try to fix it. I didn't say anything comforting right away. I just let her cry. Then I told her what I'd been thinking for weeks. They don't admire you. They admire what you can do for them. That's not love, Lex. That's convenience. She was quiet. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. If I stop helping, do you think they'll go back to ignoring me? I didn't soften it. They already are. They just haven't said it out loud yet. She nodded slowly. That quiet nod you give when you already know the answer. You're just tired of hoping it's something else. That night, she didn't go back to her apartment. She stayed in her old room. I think she just needed to be somewhere that didn't feel like a transaction. The next morning, she told me she was done. Done answering their calls. Done sending money. Done pretending it was ever about her as a person and not her paycheck. For a while, I thought that was the end of it. But when people like my parents lose access to someone they can squeeze, they don't just give up. They retaliate. After Lexi stopped replying to texts, transferring money, or picking up calls, everything went quiet for about 4 days. No guilt-tripping messages, no surprise drop-ins. No just checking in texts from my mom. For the first time in a long time, I saw Lexi breathe. She said it felt like walking into a room that had always smelled bad and realizing it was finally clean. But we both knew it wouldn't last. The silence broke when Rachel called me out of nowhere. No warning. We hadn't spoken directly in over 6 months, and the last time we did, it ended with her accusing me of being jealous that Courtney had more direction. So when she suddenly started chatting like we were old friends, asking about work, the weather, even a recipe I used to make, I knew something was wrong. Then she dropped it. So Mom told me Lexi's been having some money issues. She asked them for help, and then kind of snapped when they said no. I stood frozen in my kitchen. "What are you talking about?" Rachel didn't backpedal. She kept going. Said my mom told her Lexi had come to them in a panic and then got nasty when they couldn't give her what she wanted. She even said my mom had been crying about it. I told her the truth, that Lexi had never asked them for a dime, that they were the ones calling her for money. And that Lexi, being the generous person she is, had quietly given them nearly $10,000. No strings, no complaints, no recognition. Rachel went silent. Then muttered something about a miscommunication and ended the call. 2 hours later, my mom texted me, "I can't believe you're turning Lexi against us after all we've done for her." I showed it to Lexi. She didn't respond. She just locked her phone and walked into the backyard. It was mid-January and freezing, but she stood out there for 15 minutes, like she needed the cold to sink into her bones. That night, I told Mark everything: the call, the message, the way they were twisting the story to protect their pride and make Lexi look unstable. He said something that stuck with me. "They're not trying to fix it, they're trying to flip it. That's what people do when they lose control." I agreed, but I still underestimated what they'd try next. 3 days later, Lexi got an email from a reporter at a small local digital publication. The subject line read, "Young tech trailblazers would love to feature you." Lexi was confused. She keeps everything private. No LinkedIn under her real name, no public Instagram, nothing that would link her to that kind of story. The journalist said she'd been referred by someone who spoke highly of Lexi's inspiring career journey and her family's role in supporting her through challenges. That part made Lexi sit up. I told her to ask who referred her. The reply came quickly: it was my mom. She'd apparently bragged about Lexi's tenacity and humble beginnings, claiming Lexi worked through school with family support and came from nothing. She made it sound like they'd all banded together to lift Lexi up, some inspirational group effort. Lexi stared at the screen for a long moment, then she laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she was done. She didn't respond to the journalist, but she didn't let it go either. That night, she logged into her old Twitter account and posted a short message. "If you only value your kids after they make money, you don't love them. You love what they can do for you." I built this alone. The tweet gained attention, and by the next day, instead of a call or apology, a private courier delivered a notarized document to Lexi's apartment. It was an offer to make her an honorary stakeholder in my parents' business. On the surface, it looked generous, but the fine print said she'd have no pay, no access to finances, and no decision-making power, only a public role representing the family. They didn't want to fix anything. They wanted to use her. Lexi read the letter in silence. Later, she found an old USB with her first coding project, something she built at 13 that my parents had never cared about. She said quietly, "They were never proud of me." Not until they thought they could profit from me. The next day, she sent a brief response declining the offer and clearly stating they were not to use her name or likeness in any way. When my father called to complain about her lack of gratitude, I hung up. That was it. We were done. After weeks of silence, a relative posted a passive-aggressive message about family and loyalty, clearly aimed at Lexi. She ignored it. I sent one message asking them to leave her out of their story, and the post disappeared. Later, over dinner, Lexi said the hardest part wasn't being used. It was how quickly they replaced her once she stopped being useful. "They don't love people," she said. "They love tools." Then she smiled and said, "I'm done explaining myself to people who never wanted to understand me." From that moment on, we chose peace. No drama, just freedom.